What's up guys, Mr. SLIN here with another video about competitive Team Fortress 2. I'm sick. I'm sorry that I'm sick. I caught a cold over the holidays, and if I'm coughing in the middle of the video, that's what that is, and hopefully I should be getting over it soon. Also, want to thank you all for 20,000 subscribers on the channel. That means a lot to finally hit that milestone. Feels good, man. And yeah, I appreciate the support thus far. So, as always with the videos, I'm taking questions from the comments. So if you have a question for me, go ahead and post it down there in the comments below, and I may feature your question on a future video. Today's question comes from Chen Yi Ren, who asks, does changing graphics settings affect your aim/general gameplay? Thank you for the question, Chen Yi Ren. Yes, of course. Of course, your graphics settings, of course, your PC's performance will affect your aim or your general gameplay. And I think we all kind of know that in the back of your mind. I mean, TF2 is one of those things like any esport where the better the computer you have, the better you're going to play. And it's actually like a big deal. It's not like golf. Like if you play golf, if you switch out your golf ball, like it's not going to make a huge difference for most people because they suck at golf. It's not like bowling, another sport where people suck. Where, yeah, I mean, sure, I'm sure the pro bowlers have like really special bowling balls that they use. But for the most part, as long as it's approximately the right weight, you're going to be bowling just fine. I think for video games, though, it's a big deal. Like, it's very noticeable when your game is buttery smooth and feels amazing, and then when you have like this choppy computer and your ping is spiking all over the place, and it's just not a good experience. Anybody can sit down at the computer and feel that. So I realize that a lot of people out there come from different economic backgrounds and different abilities to buy. If you have a lot of money, if you have the ability to just dump a ton of money into this, then yes, just go out there and buy like an enthusiast PC build. There's a bunch of the pre-build ones you can look up online, or you probably know how to build a custom PC. Just dump a ton of money into your computer, and if things feel really, really smooth, you're probably gonna have a really good time. Get a good internet connection. Seems good, man. For the rest of us who are not made out of money, I want to give everybody some tips, just like everybody across the board. Things that they can do to improve their FPS, to improve their game performance, and maybe talk a little bit about 60 hertz versus 120 hertz, because I know that's a common question that comes up as well. And then kind of just wrap up the video and kind of move on from there. So the first thing I recommend that everybody does, if it doesn't matter if you have a really bad computer or a really good computer, is go download Comanglia's FPS config or a different FPS config. So Comanglia's is like the standard for FPS configs. I know up here he says he's no longer updating this and has no plans to do so, but it's still the best. It was edited a month ago, so it's still pretty up to date. If there's something better that comes out, I'm sure I'll have a video about it. But for now, this is the one you want to go to. I'll put a link to it in the description of the video down below. For anybody out there with a high quality computer, you want to use this one. If you have a mid quality computer, use this one. And so on and so on. If you have like a super, super bad computer, there is like there's a config in here that you can download that will make your game turn into a bunch of squares, so it looks like Minecraft. So if you have like a really, really, really bad computer, you can turn your game into Minecraft and it'll run really, really smoothly, or as smooth as you can possibly run it. And this FPS config does a bunch of things, like it removes all the different weird lighting effects. You can turn on shadows on and off. Like, it's all configurable within there. Something that I do, I remove the eyeballs from my players, because even that has an impact on your FPS. And what you want to do is you want the FPS to be as high and as stable as possible. And I have a beast machine, and even in like random team fights, I will still see my FPS drop down to like 150. So you still want that FPS to be like 200 plus, like the higher the better. Just keep it super stable. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll cap their FPS. Capping their FPS reduces the fluctuation. So let's say you normally run at a baseline of like 100 FPS, but then randomly you shoot up to like 1,000 FPS and then immediately back down. Those fluctuations from 100 FPS right up to 1,000 and right back down, that will feel like lag to you as well. So a lot of people will cap their FPS, and inside that config, there's guides and stuff to figure out the right number to cap your FPS at. Typically, you want to take your monitor's refresh rate. So if you're running a 60 hertz monitor or a 120 hertz monitor, you take that number and you double it and you add 1, and that's typically the cap that you want to go for. So I run a 144 hertz monitor. I want to set my FPS cap to 289. That's just a general guideline. You don't have to do that, but I know some people, or a lot of people, who found success doing that if you're having that kind of issue. Typically, you don't. I mean, you might only see that issue like if you're walking down an empty server, so you're getting like 1,000 FPS, and then randomly like a bunch of particles appear out of nowhere, and then they all disappear right away. You know, that kind of thing. It's still worth it to cap your FPS though, for most people. The next thing I would do is look at maybe disabling all the things you don't need in that config. So a lot of people will disable ragdolls. A lot of people will disable facial expressions, and I'm blanking on the last one, shadows. Shadows, they're iffy. Like if you're really, really hyper competitive and you have a good computer, you might want to turn shadows on, because some of the maps in TF2 are a little bit glitchy, and you can actually see shadows through the wall, if that makes sense. Like if someone backs up against a wall, you can actually see their shadow on the other side of the wall, because TF2 is broken in that way. So a lot of like super competitive players will turn on the shadows despite the FPS hit. But for most people, like how often are you going to see someone on the other side of the wall? You'll actually find that if you turn the shadows on, you don't see it happen that often. You're just hoping that the game bugs out and you do see that. So most people can turn the shadows off just fine. So once you set that all up and your game's good to go, it even has settings in there for your net settings. So that will optimize your network settings in TF2 to make sure that you get the best hit registration possible. The next thing to do is maybe look at your actual PC setup and how you can optimize that as well. So just do the basics. Close any extra programs that you don't need. You know, a lot of people will play with a stream on or a video on or their browser open. You might want to close that as well. You want to make sure that, like, at least for me, my gaming computer, I try and make it as like pristine as possible to have the least amount of junk there. You know, defrag your computer, all the basic stuff. Make your computer as fast as possible, because that's going to help out with your FPS as well. Finally, let's talk about monitors. So a lot of people out there, in fact, most people watching this video probably use a 60 hertz monitor. If you don't know what your monitor is, it's probably 60 hertz. But if you got like a standard Dell monitor, you got one of those cheapo ones, probably just the basic, you know, comes with a computer kind of monitor. The way you can check that, there's like, just Google like, how can I check my refresh rate of my monitor online, and you can go find that out. So let's say you're using 60 hertz. A lot of the top players, like in fact, most of the top players, if you want to play at an invite level, I'm talking like the top 1% of the top 1%. Pretty much every single player uses a 120 hertz monitor. And that actually makes a big difference. If you're like a brand new player to TF2, you're probably not going to notice, but like at a certain level, you put 1,000 hours into the game, you're going to notice. What a 120 hertz monitor does is it just like is able to display more frames, and by displaying more frames, the game just looks smoother. I probably oversimplified it, but that's like the general gist, is like your game goes from being like this speed to like you see every frame in between kind of thing. And to the point where like I bought my very first 120 hertz monitor, and my game turned into TF2 into a frag video. Like it felt that good. Like it felt like I needed this. Otherwise I wasn't going to be as good of a player. And that is like one of the most important things I feel you can buy. If you're taking gaming seriously, if you're into video games and being good at video games is important to you, then this is like a solid investment into getting better at video games. A lot of people will use IPS monitors, which are monitors that have really good colors. And they're actually coming out with better technology now where you can have an IPS monitor that is 120 hertz. But like for most people out there, just go with something cheap, go with something reliable. So I recommend this monitor. It is the Asus 144 hertz monitor. This is not an advertisement. This is just the monitor that I like to buy. I bought this monitor twice now, and it's worked really well for me both times. It's $260, which I know for a lot of you guys is pretty expensive. But this is like one of the cheaper ones that you can buy for 144 hertz at 1080p. If if you're not into like spending $260, which I totally understand, or if you can find a better deal, let me know. I'd love to spread the word about that deal. If you can find a better deal than that. Because sometimes you can find that monitor on sale. I know there's some like really, really cheapo monitors that are coming out of China that you can get for like 150, maybe $180 if you really shop around. Another thing that I did, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy 120 hertz monitor. Like I was like on the fence, and I was like, how much better could it really be? You know, like this guy says it's really good. All the pros are using it, but like, how can I know it's that much better? You know? And so I went to my very first TF2 LAN, and that's when I saw like every invite player using it. And I could like take my laptop, because I was playing on a laptop at the time. I took my laptop, I sat down next to Enigma, and I was like, holy crap, this is like infinitely better. Like it's noticeably, like very noticeably better. But if you don't believe me, go to a LAN yourself. And when I went to a LAN, my very first LAN, I walked away with a 120 hertz monitor. I bought one off of Valen. I still have it today, actually. Here, it sits over there. I have too many monitors, by the way. That one on the far side is a, what is it? It's an Acer GD235 hertz. That was the first one I bought from Valen. Little did I know that monitor is actually really, really bad because it has input lag. So you got to be careful about the monitor that you buy. That's why I recommend the one that I recommend. You got to be careful about the monitor that you buy, because it might be 120 hertz, but it might have input lag. Input lag is the delay between when you click and when you see the click on your screen. And you want that input lag to be like as low as possible. And that monitor has really bad input lag, but I got it from him for a deal. It was $100. And I'm like, damn, where am I going to find a 120 hertz monitor for $100? So ended up being pretty cool for me. I've actually bought two monitors that way. The second monitor I bought from Enigma, and this one is a ViewSonic. It's actually 16 by 10 instead of 16 by 9. So I don't like that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm playing 16 by 9 all the way every day. Actually, let me show you all my monitors. So this is the crappy Dell monitor. It's 4x3. It's 60 hertz. So many of you guys probably playing on this one. 4x3, by the way, not a good monitor, because the wider your resolution, the more you're going to see. Like the wider horizontally. 4x3 is the weakest. This one here is that Asus monitor that I talked about. And there's the second one over there. The reason I have two computer setups, by the way, I'm turning this into an accidental setup showcase, but the reason I have two is because my girlfriend uses that one over there. But this one here is 144 hertz, right? That's the one I showed you. And then this last one here is the BenQ. That's what I use day to day. And the BenQ is the, I think it's like the, whatever they call it. It's not ultra wide, but it's 27 inches. So it's pretty good size, and it's 144 hertz, 2160. Is it? No, it's 1440p. Yeah, 2160 by 1440. So that one's actually pretty big, but you don't really need one that size. Like, I kind of spoil myself, but I mean, you don't need one that size. You just need 1920 by 1080. You know, so just do it right. But I guess what I'm trying to get to with that whole story was, you could spend $260 on a brand new monitor if you want to, or go find a friend, go to Craigslist, shop around online, and you can get a deal for like, you know, if you go buy a monitor off someone, make sure they plug it in and turn it on and show you that it's working. But like, you could probably get a 120 hertz monitor for cheap. I'm talking like $120 something, $100. So if you do it right, you know, and the nice part, the reason why I got mine for $100, I mean, it was really convenient for both Valen and Enigma to get me their monitors, because they already brought the monitor to the event. They didn't want to take it home. And I was right there with like open arms, like, yes, give me your monitors. So, yeah, it ended up being a great deal for me. Plus, I got monitors from the two best scouts to ever touch the game. Come on, man. Anyways, I hope this video helps you out. So let's recap everything. Use an FPS config. Make sure you tweak that FPS config, by the way, to make sure it's optimized for your setup. Make sure your computer is running as quick and as fast as it possibly can by optimizing the computer itself. If you want to overclock it, you want to close all the programs, whatever you got to do, make that computer as fast as possible. And then maybe look into buying a better monitor. So if you have a really bad computer and a really good monitor, that might not work out for you, because the general rule of thumb, I should have said this before, the general rule of thumb is, let's say you have a 120 hertz monitor, you want to have at least double those frames in order to like make it work the way you want it to. So if you're running a 60 hertz monitor, then you need to be trying to get at least 120 frames per second all the time. If you're a 120 hertz monitor, you want to be trying to hit like 240 all the time. And like I said, I have a pretty beast computer and I still don't hit, 288 all the time. But most of the time it's like over 400 FPS. But in like some random team fights, sometimes it'll drop down to like 150. So you're not going to like really notice it, but like the general rule of thumb is make sure your computer is good enough to support double the frames of whatever refresh rate you get. That way you're getting the full benefit from that monitor. And yeah, if you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching the video. See you guys next time. Peace.